but you have players like Hery and Moham have been around for a while. Haichao also has been around. So just would love to get that insight at some point. But obviously we're into the drafts for our third game of the series. And we're at a point now, Kman, where normally we would discuss, okay, now a majority of the tank supports have been banned already, but this has been mostly range supports dominating the draft so far. Only a Rel was used as a real tank support, so there's still options like the Alistar, but EDG preemptively banned the Poppy. Do they just go for... Okay, yeah. Mbessa Slam. All right.
Yeah, this is a huge flex for this team right now. Both ZDZ and Xiaohao, I think you can expect to play. The Varus is up. Notably as well, something we've seen consistently in the ban phase, OMG not banning out the Aphelios nor any other hyper carries in this one, even on the counter pick side here. And so Leave will, for the first time in this series, actually have his pick of an AD carry if he wants to go in that direction. Looks like they felt comfortable with that trade because of the Varus going over, kind of tempting them, saying, you want to pick Varus for Leave. You want Leave to be on a champion that's not mobile. But not going to take the bait there. It's going to be the answer with the Varus and the Nocturne on the side for OMG. Bit of a takeaway, and notably, this will be the first champion this split that Rio has played for the first time in this series.
Oh boy. Would love to see Rio's take on a champion that, similar to Vi, once you go in, you don't necessarily leave the fight right away. You don't have the means to immediately bail yourself out. You're kind of in there for the long haul, especially if you don't have Flash. EDG have locked in Ryze, Kman. This is one of the champions that EDG did not win a game with, and Ryze still inherently a very strong pick. And EDG are going to have to dig deep and overcome the previous match performance that Angel was not able to deliver on the Ryze. And with the Qiyana lock-in, Xiaohao is really trying to get even more resources and carry agency in his own right. And OMG, what do they answer with now seeing both the Mbessa and the Ryze on the board?
I mean, you could go for the Anivia as the lane counter to Ryze. I'd love the Akali here if they felt comfortable pulling it out to pair up with the Nocturne, but it is just going to be the Anivia. This has been kind of the standard answer to Ryze. Little bit concerned about the lack of like follow through on the Nocturne right now. You've got Varus, who kind of needs to be on the backline with no mobility, and Anivia kind of needs to be on the backline with no mobility. This Nocturne is going to be diving in onto some backline threats, and you don't really have a ton of ways to be able to supplement that aggressive playstyle. I like EDG start significantly more, assuming that Angel pilots the Ryze well. Remember, this is a champion he has not touched since the beginning of this split. Since they started going on their win streak, he has completely stayed away from Ryze. It has not even really been on their radar. And so it's going to be interesting to see if he feels more comfortable piloting it now that he's got an aggressive jungler like the Qiyana to be able to match that Nocturne. It's going to be 80 carries taken off the board for OMG, notably not the Aphelios. Again, just Leave's most banned champion across this entire split. Kai'Sa as well is open and up, another champion that Leave has really enjoyed that I think would fit this comp well. More engaged supports getting banned out from EDG to kind of follow up. I just talked about it. Anivia, Varus, they're not offering you combos with that Nocturne. You want to take away the easiest tools that are going to be able to pair with him.
Almost goading Leave to pick the Aphelios, but it would be pretty damn hard to escape Nocturne's grasp on a champion like Aphelios, where you don't have any inherent mobility or escape tools, unlike things like Lucian or Caitlyn, where you can dash away once you do get jumped on. OMG are going to save their support counter pick for Moham and go ahead and pick their matchup of choice into the Mbessa. It's a Scion. You now have a guaranteed tank and frontline for OMG, so that you can give Moham, once again, freedom to pick something that is more for lane pressure and trying to bully them with the power of an enchanter with this Varus, or something even more aggressive and spicy.
Yeah, I think the Scion makes sense here from that perspective. I think if you do want to go for an aggressive 2v2, Ziggs is one of the ways to kind of dissuade that aggressive 2v2 on the other side. I think also, importantly, I keep mentioning it, but there's just not a lot of follow-through with the Nocturne right now as the Leona gets locked in on the other side. There's plenty of lockdown. A decent lack of range. Ziggs helps to fix that a little bit to pair up with the Qiyana. You need an engaged threat or a playmaker here from Moham that can play off of the Nocturne. I think the Rakan makes a lot of sense. There are other options available as well in terms of tank engagers that could be on the board. Rakan would definitely be the spiciest pick in terms of aggression, but That is what they're going to lock. Generally, it's going to be a lot more difficult for EDG to execute this comp. It's a little bit more straightforward for OMG. But I think if you're talking holistic, I like EDG's setup in this game more than I have in the first couple games.
Leave can be a whole ass screen away and try and not get involved in the initial fight and just chuck a Mega Inferno Bomb and be like, okay, guys, I've done my contribution and I'm not in any danger whatsoever, which he has been the focus from OMG's side a majority of the series, especially when you think back to game 1 when he was on the Misfortune and Haichao was trying to hunt him down quite persistently. The flexibility in OMG's comp, I will say, comes from the recon and being able to decide, does he want to go forward with a Nocturne? Does he want to lean backwards once EDG commits their own dive tools and try and stall time for the Anivia and the Varus to reset the fight? I think something like that is important in a composition like this where you already have someone like the Nocturne who can't help the backline. His mission is trying to assassinate the backline himself.
And that's the thing, is like, if Nocturne's going to be diving onto the Ziggs on the backline, he gets stunned up by the Rise, or the Leona is there for peel. What else is that Nocturne going to be capable of? I think a lead needs to be generated here in the mid-jungle. Nocturne Anivia can sometimes be a difficult, mid-jungle to execute on. It's not always been super consistent globally, so I'm going to keep an eye on that. I think the most important piece for me in this game is going to be that Varus. We talked really heavily about Starry throughout the last couple of games. The Ashe was super important in the last one. Varus has been a hot pick in the LPL. One of the most prioritized. He's going to have a potential big role here in this one.
We hit Summoner's Rift for game number 3. Once again, it is match point for OMG. EDG backs are against the wall. Cannot afford any more losses if they want to continue their story here in Split 1. Rio just flashed over the wall. He's looking for a level 1 invade. Oh my, Rio, I love you so much, dude. This is awesome. A rookie jungler making these kind of decisions and being this bold and saying, I don't give a frick, boy. I am going for the biggest plays.
And this is so bad for Qiyana. Like, this is really detrimental towards her clear. This is red buff gone. This is going to be Raptors gone as well. Could be the entire top side, depending on how aggressive he wants to get. Xiaohao is going to make his way up at level 2. They're going to run into each other here.
Rio? Oh, he uses the Path of Darkness already. Xiaohao has not given away his position yet. He uses his smite to yoink away the chickens. And that is at least one saving grace. Xiaohao patient enough and doesn't reveal himself by aggroing the camp early and allows Rio to do the heavy lifting for him. So now Rio is forced to retreat back over to his bottom side jungle and take those camps, and Xiaohao is going to start looking for a Gromp.
This is actually really, really bad for Rio here on the Nocturne. He commits the flash to get over the wall and steal the red. Yes, you stole the red, but you have no control over your own jungle right now. You're going to have a ton of vision placed to really track where you are. So we get a trade down on the bot side with leaving Parukia doing well. And you basically just have to hope and pray that EDG's bot lane doesn't play aggressive and try to counter invade you. Looks like they're going to continue to keep their lane priority up at the very least for now, but committing that flash so early is definitely getting punished here by the Qiyana.
Rio does go for the counter invade onto EDG's blue side jungle quadrant. But the rest of OMG's bot lane has to communicate that, hey, our bot lane is now missing. You don't have enough time to go for a blue buff and a Gromp. Rio's going to try to chance for it, though. Oh, Parukia's back. Rio, does he look for it? Can he at least smite the Gromp? Oh, it resets the aggro! Oh boy, Rio. I love your style, but this is what happens when you're playing with the big boys, and Angel is gifted first blood.
It's the perfect person to get first blood as well. It's the Rise in the mid lane. This is a counter pick matchup for the Anivia, but the Rise is going to have so much shove and roam potential if he can really, get ahead in gold, and that's exactly what's happening. Got some trades going down on the top side. ZDZ getting pretty low here in the exchange. Not going to be in kill threat because it's a Scion, but Haichao's going to make his way up to potentially try and turn this.
Damn Phaelites. Giving away the jungle's position super early on and keeping the Scion safe. Zenith Blade onto Starry, followed up by a little wee combo of the Ziggs with the Satchel Charge, just saying, hey, back off the minion wave, pal. Let me clear my minion wave as Rio happens to be on the bottom side of the map, looking for the crab. has not gone for any of these bottom side camps, but now we'll look for it since looks like Xiaohao is going to be on his respawn raptors on the top side. So Qiyana starting to at least get ahead of the curve off of the fact that his bot lane was able to collapse and punish an overextended Rio without any priority in both mid and bot lanes, just like me for real.
Well, here's the big problem, Raafaa, is that it's Nocturne. It's not just a jungle champion. It's a champion who kind of needs to hit level 6 first in order to have as much of an impact on the map as you would want. And Xiaohao is a full level up on Rio. He is going to hit level 6 significantly faster. This Qiyana is going to be able to make plays on the map that this Nocturne cannot even come close to responding to. And that could be a massive turn. The way that this level 6 ends up going could really determine the entire game if EDG are decisive enough, as Angel just continues to utilize that, I would say, that extra kill, but he's not even really benefited from it yet. He's just winning this lane outright in the mid lane right now.
Oh, he pops Haichao's passive, and that egg will at least stay intact for now, but now EDG can call over Qiyana and try and look for a punish. Haichao still has flash available, but empowered Rune Prison into a full Qiyana combo. I don't think that egg is going to be left intact afterwards, as the first dragon does spawn here at 5 minutes.
I mean, it's really important to pop that passive because, again, we just talked about it. Angel's going to be recalling here. Xiaohao's going to be hitting level 6. This Anivia is actually in some real danger, which is why Haichao is doing so much to try and sacrifice tempo here, give up some CS in order to make sure this Rise doesn't have an easy recall. He's going to ping in,
gank his own lane. He's ganking his own lane. Haichao suspects something's up. His spider senses are tingling, even though he's just a Cryo Phoenix. He's going to lean over to the right side, away from the fog of war. And Xiaohao's going to call off the play.
This is exactly what I was talking about in draft. I know you might not. I know a lot of people were probably not agreeing with me that this EDG draft had a lot of things going for it, but I think this bot lane push that the Ziggs is naturally going to have, and the fact that Rise, if he gets any sort of lead onto a champion like Anivia in the mid lane, can really be a problem, just makes things difficult. Of course, I could never have predicted Rio's opening moves here, as he is on the bot side, potentially looking for the bot lane here. Dragon is spawned. That is the objective to look at. But again, no level 6 means no kill threat onto this bot lane unless they overextend like this.
Oh boy, Rio is here to pay revenge for the invade collapse that Parukia and Leave had on him just earlier. But unfortunately for him, Moham not able to provide enough lockdown to look for threatening damage. And Xiaohao is waiting.
Oh, Xiaohao. If he goes in here, this could be game warping with that ultimate. Not available. No, he can't get the scuttle.
It's for the crab. The crab would give him level 6. They're trying to jockey for position over it. Angel's the first one to lean on over, but Haichao is clearing the wave so that he can join up next. Rio is able to follow up on a Moham grand entrance, flashing forward, trying to follow up an Angel, a little too aggressive. No one else can follow up on the play. Ignite is ticking down. Realm Warp is going to reposition Angel to flank on the left side. Flash is coming out from multiple OMG members. Xiaohao, Ding still level 5, but is able to clip Rio in the first part of the fight. Parukia sends it with a Zenith Blade. A Shield of Daybreak will hit Starry in the face, and Leave flashes forward. Just needs one more bouncing bomb and finds it on Moham's head.
EDG fire back from their first 2 losses in these first 2 games with a massive lead at 7 minutes, 2.5k gold, all on priority targets. It's gone just as well as you could ask for. We're gonna get a replay of this fight. It's very, very sloppy, but Rio flashing in here really needs to make sure he can land that fear. It's already been untethered, though, by Angel, and at this point, there's just no damage. Leave is on this pseudo flank, and the moment the Realm Warp comes out, there is just no positioning. Well played by Xiaohao to be able to pick up that kill there onto Rio to really secure this fight. He even gets out, even through the Anivia ultimate. Angel also just surviving on the back end of this fight. Leave has to flash to pick up the kill onto Moham, but they're more than happy to take that trade. It's kills across the board for EDG. Gold leads everywhere, and they have full control over the entire map with this early game.
CK, man, these are the big flips that you don't see that often in other pro matches, because sometimes they're a little too reserved and a little too scared of just sending the game. But OMG feeling so confident off the first 2 wins, they're feeling themselves. They're like, hey, let's just flip the game. Let's see what happens. And unfortunately, they got the negative side on pretty much every single possible flowchart that could have occurred. Not a single kill goes their way to stem the bleeding of this advantage that EDG now have on their side. Thankfully for them, Rio is able to pick up all 3 grubs for themselves, so at least there's some consolation prize at the end of the day. And Starry and Moham gonna try and pressure ZDZ under the tower. Paranoia into the grand entrance, but great reposition with the public execution. Somehow finds Starry through the darkness, and ZDZ flashing back to the safety of this turret. Well played by the top laner of EDG.
It's a disaster for OMG. That Nocturne ultimate was your, potential catch-up mechanic, if you will, and there's just no way that you can utilize that and not pick up a kill. Alas, here we are. Very well played by ZDZ on the Mbesta, despite the fact that he's not doing so hot, we'll just say, in the laning phase right now. Xiaohao's gonna get even more on the invade on the bottom side here, take away even more camps from Rio, who is already very far behind. It just goes from bad to worse for OMG. We see this mid lane start to slightly go in favor of the Anivia. Do have a bit of a bone to pick with this counter pick that has not been particularly successful globally in terms of the raw stats with the Anivia into the Rise.
Parukia. Oh!
Just barely gonna miss. Oh, if that hits, Haichao not in a good position. That I will just say. Angel 700 gold up. This Rise is getting closer and closer to some of those items that will make him nearly unkillable in the late game. You cannot allow this champion to get further accelerated.
That hit the freaking wing. I want a refund. That, what the hell? Riot! Well, Haichao is going to be thinking Riot under the table under that one. I was like, I appreciate you. Cover me on that one. EDG, though, still have the gold advantage on their side. 2.2k in advantage. First items have not been yet achieved by any of the carry members from EDG. However, they are very, very close to it. And with the Profane Hydra coming up soon for this Qiyana, this is one of the things that can be very powerful about an assassin jungler. We don't see it that often, but their items are relatively cheaper than bruiser items in this day and age, Kman. So if he can start snowballing now that the Profane Hydra has been picked up, it's an immediate, even faster Aximark. Angel dancing around, forced to pop the ghost because the phase rush was just not enough movement speed to escape what could have been a 2v1 setup.
Yeah, that's the scary part of playing into Anivia, is you just don't want to get caught in one bad situation. As Rio makes his way to the bottom side, Xiaohao is strong. Both junglers are going to be here in the bot lane. If this turns into a 3v3, not going to be particularly good for OMG. I imagine they're going to want to try and avoid this fight.
Yo, Moham? Okay, well, I'm not sure what he saw, and Starry is definitely seeing stars after that supreme display of talent. They're able to at least pick up 1 kill trade. Parukia dies at the hands of Starry under the tower. And Rio is here to at least defend the turret from certain death. Wow, it's a lot of damage on to leave. I wasn't expecting that burst to come out. Hery's also here to follow up with the play. Xiaohao is able to trade onto Rio and now needs to make the grand escape. Hery does not have a flash after he already burned it. And EDG's jungler will be able to live after this play.
No idea what that play is for OMG. I mean, they are completely uncoordinated and not on the same page in terms of how that goes down. Moham getting caught out as Rio is backing. But at the end of the day, at the very least, they're able to pull 1 kill back out of it onto the Nocturne. Xiaohao is just dangerously ahead at this point, though. If there's one champion you don't want to be 1,000 gold down on at 12 minutes, it's probably Qiyana. So definitely scary as we get some supportal combat in the river over a ward here. Always fun to see that go down. But Xiaohao is massive in the jungle here. These objectives spawning in just over a minute.
Might look for the Scion. Has no flash, has no unstoppable onslaught. Empowered Room Prison. Xiaohao with the water Q roots him momentarily. Solar Flare kind of sidestepped by Hery. Really nice movement from the Scion and forcing Parukia to go critically low and pop that Locket Shield just to survive.
It's some nice sidesteps, but I don't know if it was even entirely necessary. This Scion is so hard to kill at this point in the game with the lack of damage that you generally have for EDG here if you don't want to expend every single one of your major cooldowns. I understand at the very least getting some resources out of OMG, but that could have been a very bad play if they had overcommitted. He was going to get a chance to catch up at least a little bit in terms of farm, taking away the Raptors here. Talked about it a bit before. Just under 40 seconds on this dragon. It would be second Drake for EDG if they can start stacking those. Their win condition becomes even more clear in the late game. Really, regardless of what soul it ends up being, especially now that your first item spikes are starting to come in. That Roa especially is starting to get stacked by Angel.
Depending on what his stack number goes to, okay. He'll have enough time to hit these Krugs and complete his jungle quest so that he can at least compete his 1400 damage smite against Xiaohao's. But EDG still trying to use their priority and their gold advantage to give them first move into the river. Credit to OMG, they're able to at least get some early vision down and slow down EDG's approach. Xiaohao was on base, trying to see if he could finish the second item. He's actually going for Serpent's Fang, which I can respect. There's a Seraph's going to be coming out of Haichao's Anivia later on. You definitely want to cut down on the shielding coming from that, as well as some other potential sources here from Moham with his Battle Dance shield, and even the Soul Furnace from Sion.
I was about to say, a lot of shields on the side of OMG. Makes a lot of sense to itemize like that. Fortunately, OMG can't keep control of the river. You have to be really, really worried about Angel and the damage he can output at this point in the game. It will be that dragon going over to EDG, and stacking that is important, and it is going to be a hex map once again, so mobility definitely going to be there for a comp that kind of needs to be able to find their picks. We saw a very similar style of game played in Game 2 with the roles reversed for these two teams. EDG need to make sure that they don't overstep too much, but their front line very consistent in this game with the Ambessa and the Leona in particular. Xiaohao being online just makes it so scary to look for these plays, and Angel just trading very well into the Anivia at this point.
We know that Angel did have a blemish on his Rise record this year with the one loss, but we know from previous splits, Angel has put up good Rise performances, and EDG really need him to lock in for this Game 3, because he has the potential to try and weave around a lot of the crowd control, a lot of the slows that are going to be in this fight. And once Rise does hit that actualizer spike on third item, this Rise really pumps damage and can be what is needed from EDG to push themselves into a Game 4.
I mean, Sion is going to be big in the late game, but you're absolutely right. I think if we're talking about ways to kill the Sion, Qiyana Rise can certainly get the job done if they are accelerated enough in this game, and that's what you're going to be watching out for. EDG have not had the best macro throughout this series. They've certainly not made the best calls, and they've certainly not been the most decisive. That's really where things have come down in the first two games. They're going to need to be a lot better at that here, as OMG are actually the ones who are going to be starting up on this Herald. EDG are making their way over, but Xiaohao's still in base, kind of making his way there.
Thankfully, Hextech portals allow the rotations to be quicker for both teams. 6,000 HP on Rift Herald, still plenty of time for Xiaohao to get in, using the Grass Q to cloak his approach. Sion with the Unstoppable Onslaught, looking for the primary engage. Parukia leads the charge. Rio turns out the lights just to make sure that he can run away. Parukia is the first one to fall, but it's only Hery that steps up as the front line. But believing the Rift Herald did reset, might still be enough for EDG to be able to take it without any contest from OMG, since a lot of buttons were used in the fight.
That's the problem right now. You have to walk back so efficiently that so many of your tools get burned if you ever want to go forward. OMG are staying in the area, but this is getting very low.
Starry doesn't get a chance to wind up the W-empowered piercing arrow to look for a Gumayushi steal. ZDZ might be in trouble. Public execution. Oh, it got baited out of him as Moham quickly dashes back over the wall and forces the flash out of ZDZ. At least EDG do get a Rift Herald at the end of the day.
Yeah, it actually turns into a gold positive play for them at the end of the day, despite the fact that it looks so wonky in general. It's going to eventually turn into something that works for them. That Herald is actually really relevant towards their comp. They don't always have the easiest ways to be able to pressure out in the mid game here on these 2-item power spikes, and so to make sure that you are able to get pressure where you want for some of these objective fights, going to be crucial. Soul Point in just under 2 minutes here. That is likely going to be what this Rift Herald ends up being used for, making sure you can get control over that area. That's where those item spikes are really going to start to matter. We're going to see how this fight ends up starting, or how this entire exchange ends up starting. Moham just walking up, level 6 by himself, level 11 Qiyana. See you later, buddy. Not much to do on the recon there. Your sacrifice is unfortunately in vain at the current moment, but it is the life of the support to die trying to get vision.
That's how the matchup goes, Kman, as a wise man once told me. EDG, waiting for this third dragon spawn in a minute's time. Baron is going to be spawning just 20 seconds after that dragon graces the rift here. Rest of EDG trying to circle around this bottom half of the map, laying down vision and making the approach for OMG that much more difficult. Rio level 11, Parukia, or I should say Xiaohao level 12, 3, 0, and 2 on the Qiyana. EDG really need to ensure that while they've had this lead so far in this game 3, that they maintain it, because we have seen a similar scenario in game 2, Kman, where EDG had the lead, and then it was OMG being able to wrestle control away from EDG unexpectedly, but also just straight up outplaying them in the moments that mattered most.
I agree. It came down to that execution. I think they had much better tools, OMG did, in game number 2 to be able to make their comeback. They had so many ways to play going backwards. They don't have nearly as many of those here as EDG set up. Around this Drake, it has spawned. Teleports are coming in. The fight is about to break out.
Parukia barely dodges out on the grand entrance. Hery pushes Angel off the dragon. So 5,000 HP. Xiaohao can't get back in. 4,000 HP. They have ZDZ pushing on the top side of the map. EDG willingly saying, you know what? Let's give the dragon. They have all 5 members here. It'll give ZDZ more time to farm up on the top side, since that was a main reason why Hery was so far ahead in game 2 on the Rumble.
I mean, that's exactly the exchange they want to go for here. They say it's fine. We don't need soul point right now. We're just going to make sure that we are in as good of a spot to take these fights in the late game, and Bessa being strong is really important. Xiaohao potentially looking for Hery under tower here. Tower is quite low, but Moham is here to protect, and so is Rio with that Nocturne ultimate. They have to be very careful of this play. They're just going to disengage it, get out of there. No, thank you. Not going to worry about that one too much.
You know how you said trying to go for a Scion 10 minutes ago was a pretty scary prospect and one probably not worth visiting? Imagine 10 minutes later where he's even tankier. I think that was the right call for EDG at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would not want to be the person that has to dive the Scion under tower right now, even as the 3-0 and 2 Qiyana. But that damage is really starting to come through. 2.5 items done for Xiaohao, and they are some pretty good items, as you called out earlier. That Serpent's Fang completed. A lot of shields on the side of OMG to be able to break through.
Oh.
ZDZ continues to trade down on the bot side. The problem for the Mbessa here is that you want to be able to try and push these towers and create a split threat. It's going to be more difficult with that Scion. For now, we'll see how much pressure they want to put into trying to make sure they can control the Baron on the top side here.
If the items pop back up, I want you to look at Rio's inventory. He has a Protoplasm Harness as his second item on Nocturne. This has been an item that has usually been built on tanks, especially when they're kind of in econ mode and they're not getting much gold for themselves. It's been great on Sejuani. It's been great on Mundo. Hell, it's been decent on Malphite as well. Building on a Nocturne. This Nocturne's doing no damage when he goes into the backline, but he is just going to be a meat shield and try to use as much of his life bar to distract EDG's backline for as long as he can, because I don't see any other reason why he would get it. Starry?
Oh, Starry.
All cards already used, but they can't follow up on the play. And you know what? For EDG's sake, they can be thankful that they have at least burned one summoner spell off of an ultimate.
Yeah, you know, good trade overall from an efficiency standpoint. You know, this is a pretty classic Nocturne move to say, hey, I'm not going to be able to kill anybody this game. Might as well build tank. It's understandable. That ultimate is still very useful, regardless of how much damage can be done. Parukia is caught.
Rio tethers him with the fear. Parukia below 50% HP. Mega Inferno Bomb a little wide. No one hit in the center. So no 3-pointers coming out from Leave right now. Just a stray few hundred damage off the tops of Moham and Starry.
Problem right now for OMG is that they're looking to try and find one of these plays as they continue to move towards the Baron, but they're just starting to bleed gold over to the other side. The one lead that they had on the top side is gone because ZDZ got that time in a side lane to be able to play a bit more efficiently. It's a 2,000 gold lead on Xiaohao, who will delete anybody on the enemy team. You know, Anivia will have Egg available, but let's talk about Egg in a team fight potentially being, eliminating the Anivia damage. That is generally what it ends up turning out to be, even with, the passive being able to keep that champion alive. Xiaohao is going to be a menace. It's going to be hard to set up around these areas when, Especially these squishies are going to have a hard time being able to find their way in. Vision is getting dropped. Scuttle is going to be taken. Baron Dance is going to continue. Curious to see if they start it up here.
Rio's going to turn out the lights. He's looking for the isolated target here in Angel as he speeds on out thanks to the Ghost. And proccing the phase rush as well. Decent to at least burn summoner spells, but Hery with the re-engage on the Angel, caught out by the unstoppable onslaught. Realm Orb not available anymore because it was interrupted, caught out by the Anivia wall. Angel cannot get bailed out in time by EDG. Everyone's now coming in as reinforcements. Xiaohao looks for the supreme display of talent, knocks Rio against the wall, but the carries for OMG are still alive, and Rio is somehow escaping with his life. ZDZ cannot get through Hery's Scion wall, and somehow OMG are starting to find picks in the late game.
Once again, it's Angel making a critical error in game number 3 here as he just steps up without vision of who is behind him, gets caught out by the Scion, and gives a lot of pressure over to OMG. Fortunately for EDG, it's not nearly enough to be able to pressure out that Baron, but it's certainly some gold going back into their pocket. 10 seconds on this dragon spawning. The pings are coming down. Soul point for EDG would be on the table as Leave. Ziggs does his thing and takes that mid lane tower. What do they want to prioritize? It looks like right now the answer to that is Soul.
Maybe setting up a trap instead. At least around this line brush, waiting for Angel to regroup with the team. Starry on mid wave right now. No way for EDG to jump on him first since he still has a cleanse available as well as that spell shield from the Edge of Night. Lee forced back by the Anivia wall. EDG slowly losing ground in the bottom river. OMG forcing them back. This is just crazy. They are behind 4.2 thousand gold, but they have better terrain shifting and shaping from the side now. As EDZ looking for a flank. Rio's just going to send it on to Leave. He's forced to flash over the wall. I mean, that's a Ziggs flash gone. Can OMG punish now for the remainder of the fight? ZDZ caught out by himself. Public execution into the back line. Starry voids the center point of the Mega Inferno Bomb damage, but Starry finally falls to Angel, and now the rest of EDG can push through. Hery, the mighty Scion, cannot survive this time around. The Realm Orb is going to allow them to continue the play, finding Rio, and Xiaohao comes up huge for the team, paying off the investment that they made into this Kiana with a massive double kill. They don't even care about the dragon. They're going to look at the Baron instead.
Beautiful fight from EDG. Leave has been criticized so much over the course of this series, but it's his Mega Inferno Bomb that ends up really tearing apart OMG in that fight. They're going to get Baron off the back of that. Just very well played. Who cares about your Scion on the front line when we have so many tools to be able to access your AD carry? It's just executed perfectly. EDG utilizing their comp to perfection after some mistakes in this fight. You know, it ends up starting off kind of bad. EDG getting pushed out of this river, and Leave looks like he is caught alone, but this flash is gorgeous. It's perfectly timed to be able to evade the fear, and what that means is that Rio really has no more tools. He has no ult, and he has no fear available. Spell Shield was also burned there, so he has to play so passive. Once ZDZ goes in and hits Starry, there's no more damage left on the map to be able to deal with. Talked about that ultimate coming in from the Kiana, just ridiculous amounts of damage. And of course, the follow-through coming in from the rest of EDG. If you're able to access that backline, it's completely free. Dragon is now going down in picture. That is Soul Point to EDG. They have Baron. They are one Dragon off of Soul. It's looking pretty good for this team.
EDG now over 7,000 gold ahead of OMG. Not to say that EDG hasn't been in states where they've had gold advantages and OMG have been able to come back, but this state looks a lot more convincing for EDG. And like you said earlier before, Kman, OMG do not have access to the amount of tools that they did in game 2 to look for those picks and plays. We talked about before that Rio on this Nocturne is not going to have the damage by himself to isolate and solo out one carry of his choosing. He really has to rely on damage from elsewhere. Otherwise, he is just a distraction tool at best.
That is the scary thing with Nocturne. This champion can, you know, really be a bit of a nuisance from ahead and can really be, you know, a fly from behind in terms of the damage that it outputs. Let's not forget, this is the first unique champion that Rio has played in this series. He played 4 champions in the regular season. All 4 of them were picked in the first 2 games. He had to move off of that. The Nocturne was the choice, and it's looking
for ZDZ.
ZDZ the target, though.
the tether and the fear. Locks him down momentarily for now. Moham tries to look for the grand entrance. Great use of the public execution. Dodges out on the knockup, but ZDZ finally goes down. Big shutdown going over to Haichao's Anivia, but Xiaohao finds the flank onto Starry's Varus. One major carry gone from the squad. OMG Hery is caught out by the solar flare. Parukia locks him down with the Zenith Blade. They're cut off by the Anivia wall, so they cannot follow up on the engage quite yet, but OMG health bars are blinking. Haichao, the only relatively healthy members left standing. Decent stun off of the Q and keeps them back with the wall, but EDG are pressing their advantage and ready to lay the siege down on this bottom inhibitor tower.
Yeah, they are continuing to push. OMG with a desperation play to try and find ZDZ. Caught out, just not able to find it. The Realm Warp able to salvage it all. Parukia could be looking. I think they just want this tower, but it's going to be hard to take.
Parukia is tanky. Is he tanky enough, though? Unstoppable Onslaught lands the decimating smash for the follow-up knockup, and EDG's support goes down. There's no objectives to potentially contest, so not the biggest punish that OMG could have hoped for, but Rio pops the darkness, but you don't really want to go in on that when you have that low of a health bar, and when it's only Moham that can follow you up on the play. EDG know that they are quite safe to make that recall.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good defend there from OMG, just an overstay for EDG with the lack of range that they have in their comp. It's going to be really difficult even for Leave to be able to burst down that tower. But still, a play that ends up netting EDG even more gold. 5,000 gold lead in the jungle right now for Xiaohao.
Jeez.
You know, Rio has been useful with some of the ultimates to be able to turn the lights off, but, I mean, this champion is entirely just pressing R and hoping the team can win at this point in a 4v5 in terms of the damage that is down, and that is especially relevant considering the timers that are on these neutral objectives. About 2 minutes on both. Coming back up onto the map, it'll be Soul for EDG, Baron as well. See if they can get there.
Parukia, no flash available on the Leona, and caught behind the Anivia wall, cannot escape. EDG down their support again for another 37 seconds.
Yeah, it's a really nice pick to get OMG more vision coverage across the map. Not going to be too influential, as there's no objective to kind of punish that pick off of, but definitely still more gold is always a good thing. Haichao actually has a gold lead on the Anivia here. You want to try and play that champion in the late game to be, you know, the pseudo carry of this comp. The concern here is Haichao going to be able to have enough time on the backline to make that worthwhile? We've seen Starry repeatedly caught out. Got to be very wary of an Mbessa or a Kiana on your backline. Even a Mega Inferno Bomb can blow up this bird right now with an 8k gold lead for EDG, but that gold lead looks significantly less impressive when you take away Xiaohao's 5,000. Only about 3k on everyone else. Still a big lead for EDG, but certainly not one that is instantly winnable for them.
If OMG could somehow find Xiaohao in a pick, that gold advantage, like you said, is no longer unsurmountable. And it's going to be very difficult since Xiaohao has been playing the cleanest game of this series so far, knowing how important and how dire it is for him to maintain this advantage. OMG's frontline steps up, allows them to walk into the river, forcing EDG back. Parukia able to escape the Anivia wall combo this time. OMG now into the river, but ZDZ is angling himself on the left. Starry throwing out some poke here. ZDZ getting ready to approach. Public execution at the ready. Dragon has spawned. It is Hextech Soul for EDG if they can secure it. Xiaohao is on the flank, looking to loop around the back end of the Dragon Pit. If he can flash up... Whoa, whoa, oh, no! Oh, the Supreme Display of Talent is a complete whiff! Can they still win the fight after? The Nocturne turns out the lights once again. Moham is the first one popped. Rio is looking for Leave onto the back line. He's isolated once again. Haichao is able to pop. Parukia in the back. Starry falls. Haichao goes golden, flashes over the wall. Xiaohao is trying to look to crack this egg. Rio now forced to run away, and Angel will run him down anyway. Xiaohao scrambles the egg, and even with a complete whiff on the Supreme Display of Talent, it does not matter. OMG lose all 5, and EDG will push this to game number 4.
No ultimate, no problem for Xiaohao. It was all calculated. The Scion has to stand there and go, well, I'm so tanky I can't die, but my entire team is going to die instead as EDG take down the inhibitor. They're going to take down the base. They're going to keep themselves alive here. It's a really well-played game. They've still got a lot to work to do in this series.
There is a moment, Kman. You and I both knew. We saw that flash into the wall, ulti go off, and we're like, if they lose this fight, Xiaohao is... He's going to bed, tears in his pillow. There's just... Thankfully, that does not happen. But whoa, we were just completely shell-shocked and ready for the worst.
We can take some breaths. Ooh, okay, we're okay. We're okay. It worked out. Doesn't matter. That never happened. The flash was fine. The ultimate was fine. We're not worrying about it. Just, I think, a really well-executed game from EDG. I think they were kind of taking from OMG's draft philosophy in this one. I think that's really where I want to go in terms of this conversation. EDG really were just like, hey, what if we just had pressure? Like, what if we just were able to push forward in our lanes and play for the mid game? I know. What if we actually just played to win skirmishes and to try and get the game into a spot where we could control the map? And that's exactly what they did. I love this draft. I think it's way too passive on the side of OMG in comparison to what they've done throughout the rest of this series. And I think we saw that that really came into play. Obviously, some outstanding circumstances in terms of flashes and things being burned at level 1, but overall, a very good game from EDG.
I'm just trying not to think about that one flash, but everything else from EDG, relatively clean performance and a nice way to mentally reset yourself when you are staring down the barrel of a 0-2 lead from OMG, with all the stakes of missing out on playoffs, being sent to Group Nirvana, weighing heavily on that end of the barrel as well. But EDG can now look forward and say, okay, OMG are not unbeatable, and we can be clean enough to actually take games off of these guys, because a lot of us had predicted that EDG being the higher seeded team over OMG and not being a team like ThunderTalk where they're clearly in the developmental stage and not really fielding a competitive roster at the current time, EDG were favored going into the series, and those are the kind of wins that you would expect on paper between these two teams.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of game we thought we were getting all day long in terms of EDG versus OMG, where OMG are making mistakes, they're a bit sloppy in terms of their execution, they give over a ton of gold, and then EDG are clean enough to be able to close the game out. Not really been the story throughout the rest of the series, but this was definitely the most straightforward game that we got. Multiple different fights in this were just entirely dictated by the fact that EDG's comp was more suited to a lot of these exchanges than OMG's. Of course, I want to make it clear, it matters that the Nocturne was so out of the game. I think things are very different if Rio was actually able to be an assassin on the backline, but I said this in draft. One of the things I was most concerned about with this comp that OMG had drafted for themselves is you have this Nocturne flying onto the backline, and you have absolutely no one that can go with him. You have a Rakan that could potentially be there alongside him, but you have a Nivea and Varus as your two primary carries to play off this aggressive Nocturne. It's really hard to find ways for that fight to actually be easy to win for the team. And I know you have a Sion on the top side, but look at the comp you're playing into. Sion is kind of useless in this game in terms of how it breaks down. You can just go past him. Just ignore him completely and kill the backline. That's exactly what happens in all of these major fights. The Kiana, the Mbessa, they're able to reach that backline more efficiently. And, you know, it's just frustrating for OMG that I think really understood at the beginning of this series that, hey, if we have the tools to be more aggressive in the mid game, especially around that level 6 1-item power spike, we're going to win, to kind of throw that away in their draft in game 3.
The Ziggs pickup for Leave made even more sense as the game continued progressing forward and forward, because not only he was an additional AP threat that was really forcing a lot of magic resist to come in early on, which then makes an AD assassin jungle like Kiana even have more value, since your targets are not building armor early on to stop that threshold from going in, and then it's a catch-22. It's either you itemize to not get bursted by the Kiana, who's very fed, or you itemize to not get bursted by the scaling Rise and Ziggs past the 25-minute mark. And like you said, a lot of these champions have ways to not have to interact with the Sion. Sion can't necessarily block that damage, since either Rise just hits the NOS button on the Ghost and just zooms around him. Or Leave just throws a 3-pointer over the head and be like, I mean, try to block this. You're not Braum. You don't have a shield. Get out of here.
And who on this comp is peeling for the Anivia and the Varus to do the damage? Like, who is sitting back there like, oh, I'll
Moham
keep my
is doing
damage
everything
alive.
he can. Moham is trying to put out this fire and then this fire. Like, he sees Starry getting jumped on, but then Haichao is getting scrambled over here. Rio's like deep in Narnia trying to hunt down Leave, and Moham's like, do I dive? Do I peel? What do I do, man? What do I do? And Xiaohao 7-0-4 on the Kiana. You know, that don't let the flash ult whiff dissuade the rest of the great performance that he had today. So it was the difference maker, and what allows EDG to still be in it for this series game, man.
Xiaohao's been really good in the early game, like pre-level 4. It's been that level 6 to level 11 time frame that things have gotten a little spicier for Xiaohao throughout this series. This was one that was really consistent from him on carries. Really excited to see that he was able to completely outplay Rio and kind of take advantage of that aggression. See if he can do it again in Game 4.
That's right. Well, right after this break, y'all, we'll see you on the other side for Game 4 between EDG and Oh My God.